Hi, it's Jamie Cox with Keller Realty Las Vegas. Today I want to talk about the foreclosure moratorium. I think this topic has generated more phone calls to my office this week than any individual topic in a very long time. This morning when I stopped by the office, there was actually another agent hosting a homebuyer seminar. I stopped in just to see what was going on and, quite frankly, just to be nosy. And I was actually shocked that there were home buyers that were concerned about purchasing a foreclosure because of the moratorium that was going on. Now, I really thought that was interesting, and I was even more shocked that they asked, or they were so concerned if they should avoid foreclosures altogether just to avoid the mess. Now, I share that with you just to prove the point that it is out there, a lot of people are talking about it, and it's raising a lot of concern for people across the board. Now, I personally never would have thought that it would cause concern on the buyer's side of the transaction. And that's not what this video is about. I'd really like to address the sellers in the video and get really clear about what's happening. So before we jump into the details of what's happening and what it means for you, I'd like to address what this is not. Now, this foreclosure moratorium is not the banks trying to help homeowners. It's not the banks trying to figure out how to be more effective with loan modifications. And it's certainly not the banks buying time to figure out what to do with the property. Now, I bring those up because the media lately has been trying to put a positive spin on what exactly is going on. And none of them are, quite frankly, true. So let's get to the details of what's going on. And yes, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to way oversimplify it to the point where it almost seems too easy, but at least you'll get the idea of how this started and where we're at today. So the banks, again looking out for their bottom line, they decided to put systems in place rather than people in place to help with certain parts of the foreclosure process. Now let me repeat that. They put a system in place rather than people to do certain parts of the process. Why is that important? It's important because inevitably there's going to be mistakes made, and that's exactly what happened. A specific bank, I'm not going to say any bank's names, but a bank got caught with their hand in the proverbial cookie jar, cutting those corners and putting the systems in place. And what happened is it ended up in court, which cost them money and affects their bottom line. Now, outsiders, the other banks looking in, say, well, we're doing that same thing. Maybe we should stop foreclosing until we see how this plays out, because we don't want to end up in the same boat that they're in. And that's how this all got started. And that's why we have the foreclosure moratorium. I don't think anyone realized that it was going to get as big as it is, but that's, in a very simplified version, what's happening today. Now, before we talk about how it affects you, I want to be very clear. I've seen some reports in the media that imply that this is every bank in every state nationwide, no foreclosures are going to happen. And that could not be farther from the truth. Yes, there are certain banks that have said, we're not going to do foreclosures in all 50 states. Now, there are other banks that have said, well, we only have these systems in place, or we only cut corners in a few states with a certain type of foreclosure process. So we're only going to stop foreclosures in those states, and we're going to continue forward as normal in the other states where we didn't have those systems in place. And even more so, there's other banks that say, hey, we've been doing things right since the very beginning, so we don't have anything to worry about it. We're moving forward with foreclosure as normal. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I don't want to see homeowners get caught up thinking that there's a moratorium and end up getting foreclosed on because they were ignorant to exactly what was going on. So that's why I decided to record this video this morning, is I want to make sure that everyone is educated exactly about what's going on and that you're still looking into your options. Now that brings me to, how does this affect you? And again, it's going to seem oversimplified, but it doesn't. And what I mean by that is, if you're a homeowner facing foreclosure, you're behind on your payments, you've got the foreclosure notice, you're still facing foreclosure. Could it be next week that the moratorium goes away? Sure. Could it be a year from now? Probably not. But at some point, they're going to decide to move forward and you're still facing foreclosure. Obviously, something financially could change and you could pay your mortgage off, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as things stand today, even with or without the moratorium, you're still facing foreclosure. So you still need to consider your options, and that's really what I want this video to be about. Is moratorium or no moratorium? If you're facing foreclosure or looking for an exit strategy, a way out of your property that you're upside down in, you still need to look into your options. Now, what those options are, it's different on a case-by-case basis. You could be looking at bankruptcy. Modification may be an option for you. Short sale may be an option. Allowing the bank to foreclose in some cases is an option. Deed in lieu of foreclosure is an option. Even renting out your property may be an option for you. I can't tell you what that is in a very general sense, but we can help you figure out what options you have available to you and a plan of action. And that's what I think is most important to get out of this video, is with the moratorium, what it's doing is giving us time to develop a very strong plan of action and commit to it fully. And that's what I'd really like for you to take home today, is choose your course of action and go after it, even with the moratorium. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see homeowners think that the moratorium is going to buy them time. They don't look into their options, and then it ends up being too late, and the only option is allow the property to foreclose or file bankruptcy. So to find out what your options are, give us a call, visit our website, watch some of our videos on frequently asked questions, schedule a private appointment with us and our attorney,